Hello and welcome to ARC. Today we have Ben Powell interviewing Labour councillor Joan Bell. Hope you enjoy.
Well, yeah, how do you think Labour wins an election going forward?
How do we win an election? Well, I think we've got to go back to what we were really and actually address the things that really matter to people in their everyday lives. We tend to be skating over things with new policies and all the rest of the thing, but we aren't actually addressing the things that really matter to people. You know, just having enough money in your pocket to buy food and that sort of thing. And we've gone away from that. It's as if it's not there anymore. It doesn't really exist anymore, this issue. You know, everybody's okay. They've got a job and everything, and it's not like that for so many people. There's so many people that have got a job, but it's not paying them enough. So we've got to make sure that people are getting a decent wage. For example, people taking the kids to school and having to have toiletries off the school because they can't afford basic things like that.
Yeah.
That's just not. It's a human life, and it just shouldn't ever happen. It shouldn't ever happen. And it's just the basics like that, so everybody can have self-respect.
So raising minimum wage.
Yeah, raising the minimum wage is one. Yeah, and looking at the people that really need the help. For example, we've been doing some work on PIP. Don't know if you've been involved with PIP at all.
Yeah, is that so? The personal independent payment, is that part of universal credit?
Yeah, it's that sort. It's a separate thing, but it's the same sort of thing. And the people that we've interviewed who've been turned down for PIP, it's a scandal. It's a real scandal.
Why do they get turned down?
What they do is they're given this interview. It's the most impersonal, awful interview I've sat in them. They're asked questions like, can you prepare a meal for yourself? If they're in a wheelchair, can you stand up? Stand up. Well, stand up. Come on, try it. Stand up. No, I can't stand up. Well, try. So they try to stand up and then they fall down. This sort of thing, Now, can you walk over there? No, I can't walk that far. Well, try. So they try and they can't walk over there. So they give them a few points for that for trying. And this sort of thing. The last question we ask at every interview is, have you ever thought of committing suicide? And if they say yes, so why didn't you? That's a standard question at the interview. They don't refer to doctors or medical professionals. All they have is an initial report. The person that interviews them isn't a medical person. It can be when I say they're not a medical person, it could be a midwife, it could be anybody dealing with anybody. Once they've decided how many points they're allocating them, if they don't reach the criteria, then they're turned down. So all benefits stop. So they say they're fit for work, even though they probably haven't been able to work for years.
Yeah.
They're fit for work. So then they have to start going through an appeal process. Disability Solutions works very closely with this. The appeal takes around about 6 months. During that time, they've got no benefits.
I was going to say, how do they live in the meantime?
They've got no benefits. A lot of people lose their homes and go on the streets during that time.
Right.
These are disabled people.
Yeah.
Many people have actually died before they've got to the tribunal. Normally at the tribunal, the decision is turned over and they go back on benefits. But then, about 4 months later, they have to start reapplying for the next lot of benefits and go all through the same system again. These sort of things have got to stop. We've just got to stop under a Labour government. They've got to stop.
How many people in this city are in that cycle?
Thousands.
Thousands of people face that PIP assessment.
Yeah, thousands. It's you can look at the PIP report. If you look under my minutes, council minutes,
I will do.
Look under the PIP report. But it's thousands. It's unbelievable. I went and sat with a couple while they had their interview. They didn't know who I was. They threatened him. They thought I was a family friend. And this guy got cancer in both lungs. Waiting for the results. They thought it spread to his other organs. He couldn't walk at all. He couldn't do anything for himself, really. He couldn't get to the toilet or anything for himself. It was like all the time was speaking, and his wife sat with him and asked all these questions. And at the end, they said, "Have you ever thought of committing suicide?" And he said, you could see he was choking up a bit, and his wife was looking quite full. He said, "Yes, I have." And they said, "Why haven't you?" And he said, "Because of her." They both burst into tears, This is happening all the time. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It really is. The stories people were telling us about their experience of having these interviews. It was just terrible. And it goes on, and it goes on. Those are the things, the basic things. People's human rights, people's entitlements that, we've got to get right as a Labour government.
It's pretty sobering stuff.
I admit I cried through some of the interviews, I couldn't believe what people were going through and how humiliating it had all been for them. There was this young lad with his mum. He was a sole carer. She was in a wheelchair, she had epilepsy, and she'd had a stroke and various other things. And he came in with her, and he was telling us about the interview. And he said, "My mum's in a wheelchair all the time. I wash her in a wheelchair. I push her to the toilet, and help her onto the toilet and all this in a wheelchair." Says, and when they came, they said to her, "Stand up." And I said, "She can't stand up." And the interviewer said, "I can't listen to you, I'm sorry. Stand up." And he said, and I kept saying, "She can't stand up, she can't stand up." Anyway, he said, they made her attempt to stand up and she fell down. Yeah, what are we?
Yeah, it's humiliating.
What are we?
Yeah.
Are we human beings or what? Well, but there's story after story like we put an article in the Sentinel and it had terrific response from all over the country. Well, people are going through it all the time. They're going through it, and Duncan Walker, who works for Disability Solutions, he rings me regularly and tells me that he's just been waiting for an appeal. The person's died while they've been waiting for one off the list, It's just unbelievable.
Well, one of the other policies is, so that's specifically for disabled people, isn't it, the personal independence payment?
Yeah.
So then there's the universal credit as well, isn't there? And when I've looked at systems for a kind of universal basic income, it seems in theory like quite a good idea. I mean, they simplified 7, 8 different benefits down into one, didn't they, with the universal credit? But it seems as though they put it all into one, but then not only are there issues with a payment can come once a month and it's one payment per household and people pay their bills and then they've got nothing to live on for 2 weeks, which means they end up at the food bank. But also, it seems as though they've tried putting all these benefits into one and then cut the benefit down to less than it would have been if it was all the 7.
Yeah.
Do you think there are those problems with the... Well, I suppose there's myriad problems, isn't there? So do you think that policy could continue but be reformed and put more funding into it, or do you think it has to end and we go back to the system as it was before?
I don't see how it can work, quite honestly, because for one thing, people on benefits are not used to budgeting month by month, used to budgeting week by week. Because
they would get a benefit payment every week.
Yes, yeah. So, when they get it once a month, they've got to pay the rent and all the rest of it, and then, they've got no money then for the rest of the month.
Yeah.
They're not used to that sort of budgeting, for one thing. We're getting a lot of people in arrears with housing, council housing rents, because they're just not coping with it at all. And the other thing is this, as you mentioned, it being paid to one person in the house. So 9 times out of 10, it's the husband.
Yeah.
You know, if he gets the monthly payments, it's up to him what he gives his wife from work.
Yeah, I mean, there was something I saw recently from, I forget the name of the charity, but it was a woman's charity. And stories of women staying with their abuser or going back to them because they've got no money, because their partner controls the house, the income, and they just have no independence at all, and there's nothing they can do.
And the amount of the rise of domestic abuse in the last 18 months is unbelievable. You know, in Stoke, really is. It's a major now, domestic abuses, especially over the football season.
Oh, wow.
It goes right up over the football season.
As much as we laugh, it's horrible, isn't it? It's horrible to think.
Yeah.
But there is that thing as well of, we do need to incentivise people to get into work. I think with disability it's a different thing, but I am sympathetic to the thought that, yeah, we do need to get people into work. We do need to make work better than claiming benefits. I mean, I'm never going to be the person to say, oh, these benefit scroungers and whatever. That's just the wrong way of looking at it. But how do you think, I mean, at the 2011 census again, Stoke had, I think 24% of the non-retired population the houses had no working adult. So how do you provide those rights for people, those fundamental human rights, but also incentivise people to get into work?
They've got to get having a living wage, haven't they, to start with? I mean, if they haven't got a living wage, what's the incentive to get back into work?
Yeah.
You know, that's the main thing, I think. You know, just no incentive to get back to work for some people because the wages are so rubbish.
Yeah.
They better just try their best to get benefits and living that way. So I think that's the major thing, really. There are so many people on low wages and so many people who think, oh, I've got a reasonable job, you know. It isn't it rubbish? Nurses especially, nurses and social care workers. I mean, why anybody wants to be a social care worker, I don't know. I mean, they'd be better stacking shelves in Tesco than doing social care with the pressures on them and the low wages and everything.
Well, they had a pay freeze, didn't they? Public sector pay freeze for getting on for a decade.
Yeah.
So, rising wages. But as well in Stoke, it's almost as though the pit and the steelworks have been replaced by the call centre and the distribution centre.
Yeah.
And we hear a lot of stories, well, I do anyway, about conditions in these distribution centres, warehouses. There was one recently. It was in a different city. I can't remember what city it was in, but it was an ASOS factory. And apparently once every 9 days there's an ambulance called out for somebody who's collapsed from working there because of the hours that they're working, the picking targets that they've got to meet, and all the conditions in those sorts of warehouses. What kind of protections do you think there should be in place? Because for me, that's almost like the modern day workhouse. That's the modern day mill with kids getting their limbs stuck in the machines. That's the modern day version of that.
Exactly it, yeah. And things have got to be put in place. You know, I think we've just left things too long, really, and not looked at working conditions for a long time. There's been other things on the agenda, and we just haven't looked at working conditions as close as we should do, and make private employers really provide better conditions for work for their employees. Yeah, that's something we've got. Everything around working conditions and pay and everything needs to be revamped.
Well, yeah, because in this area it's a bit of a flashpoint for that sort of thing, isn't it? Because of the transport links, there are that kind of employment. I mean, I know I work part time in the chip shop next to Aldi on Stanley Matthews Way, and all along there, that's all. I mean, it's kind of the perfect metaphor, isn't it? Because it used to be Hemmeath Pit,
Yeah.
and now it's Amazon Flex and Pets at Home.
Yeah.
and all these sorts of distribution centres.
I love the chips from that chip shop. Wonderful.
Oh, good, I'm glad to hear you say it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a different sort of economy as well that we've got now, isn't it? Because one of the things that for me is with progressive politics, it's a bit of an issue. When people say, oh, Jeremy Corbyn is a throwback to the 70s and the 80s, on some things I agree. So renationalisation with some things, I think wouldn't work. The railways, I'm open to, because in other countries they seem to do very well. But it seems as though we're kind of looking to the past for answers rather than looking to the future.
Yeah.
Do you think there are ways going forward that the Labour Party needs to look at new policies that work a little bit better in the 21st century, rather than thinking, we need strong unions, we need high minimum wage?
We do tend to. It's part of our ethos, I think, isn't it, to go back and think, we used to do things better. Yeah, you should look forward really and see what we can do better than we've done in the past. Really, yeah. I think something as well that is obviously is a major issue for the next government is the NHS. I'm passionate about health issues and things like that. That's my thing, and the stuff I'm seeing at the moment is quite frightening. It really is. The conditions that are in hospitals, and treatment, and the way people who work in the health service are treated, and all the time we're depending on people's goodwill to support the NHS. It won't go on, it can't go on.
Do you think that's a funding issue, or do you think it's an organisation issue? Because the government, I think there were 3 things that the government guaranteed it would keep up funding for. I think it was defence, the NHS was one of them, and I think there was something else. So funding has at least stayed level, and they announced this big package for the NHS. Do you think more money needs to go into it, or do you think it's more of an administration issue?
It's both, really. I think more money does need to go in, definitely. But it's the organisation as well. We're tending to commission stuff to private organisations that we could well do ourselves if we did it properly. And it's support for staff. We've got, some of our staff are on the knees at the moment. I had to take my husband to A&E a couple of weeks ago. It was a Monday evening. Every corridor was lined with trolleys.
Really?
Yeah. He discharged himself in the end because he just couldn't wait any longer. He'd been there 9.5 hours waiting for an X-ray result. So I talked to nurses while I was there. They'd work 12. Well, they all work 12-hour shifts.
Yeah.
But they only have half an hour break. They don't know who's coming to take them off at the end of the turn. They're depending on somebody just turning up to take over from them. Nothing's organised, there's no support there. There's several people that discharged themselves while we were there.
Yeah.
And it's just a shambles. It's an absolute shambles, and we continue to close community beds.
Yeah.
All the community beds now are closed, in the local hospitals. So what happens? They're ready to be discharged from hospital. There's no care in the community. We're paying for private places and residential homes now. Residential homes who the last CQC inspection were inadequate. This way we put in patients. It's a shambles. It's a complete shambles, and it's not going. It's going to. It worries me because I know that we're coming to a crisis point.
Well, there was a crisis last year, wasn't there?
Yeah, but this
time.
Yeah, this is going to be worse.
Right.
It's going to be worse because it's building up all the time. This pressure on providing care in the community is building up, and there aren't people there to provide it. We can't recruit and we can't retain care workers. GPs, 50%, over 50% of GPs are leaving within the next 5 years in Stoke-on-Trent.
Well, yeah, this is the issue. People are leaving, and we can't train them up, can we? Yeah.
We train them at Kiel,
right.
And then off they go.
Where do they go to?
Other cities, Birmingham, Manchester, anywhere.
Right.
Don't stay in Stoke. They don't think there's anything here for them.
So have you seen that it's been a failure of policy? Because I know that with the NHS, I don't know if it was the Lansley reforms or it was something else, that they closed community hospitals, smaller local hospitals, and instead created they kind of create regional specialist centres, don't they? So there's a children's hospital, that's the one. The staff's hospital, there's a specialist children's centre.
They've not done that in Stoke. All they've done in Stoke is they've closed community beds in community hospitals. And it's home first. That's a policy, home first. So get people out of hospital into their homes. But the only problem is there's no support there for them when they get there.
So they're just kind of left until they need an ambulance again.
Yeah. So it's more pressure on GPs, more pressure on district nurses, social care workers, and they're just not coping. They're just not coping. And it's getting worse week by week. It's getting worse. And it will just be a crisis in the end to us. I don't know what's going to happen, because it's just in every area of provision throughout the city. It's not just one area, it's not just the elderly, it's in every area of provision. GPs they don't know what to do with themselves, quite honestly. They've got that much work on. They've got thousands of patients they can't see them for, a week or 2 weeks at a time. It's madness. It's absolute madness. Pharmacies have had their funding cut. So now, instead of watching people take daily methadone dose, they're giving them 4 or 5 days to take away with them.
And then that goes in a couple of days.
Yeah. The thing is, these things are so absolutely obvious to just a normal person.
Yeah.
So why can't they see it? Why can't they see where we're going with this?
Do you think it's something that, because it's imposed from Westminster, it's something where they say, okay, you have this level of funding, and then you're going to do it this way, and because people's hands are tied from the bureaucracy above, then it's something.
To make it happen,
they've got to do what Westminster says, and they've got to fulfil the criteria for them. And I mean, on a wider note, on average across the country, local councils have been cut 40% since 2010. Do you think the solution would be a more local approach to this sort of thing? Like you're talking about, for example, doctors getting trained up and then going to bigger cities. I'd imagine where they can earn more money. I would imagine that's what it is. So in areas like Stoke, do you think there needs to be more funding, first of all, and also more of a local basis for it, because you know how to deal with these situations on a local basis?
Funding's one thing, but I think we've got to make the city more attractive for people to live in.
Right.
We've not got the housing that attracts people. We've not got the good quality schools that attract people. Not got the leisure facilities. People choosing a lifestyle. Once they've qualified, the world's their oyster, they've got this qualification. Why would they want to stay in Stoke?
Yeah.
What is in Stoke for them?
Well, again, one of the things from the census data, I think the population between the 2001 census and the 2011 census grew by, it was negligible, I think it was about 9,000. That says to me there's brain drain. So people get qualified, and like you say, they go to other places because there's nothing here for them.
No, it's nothing here for them at all. But it is becoming absolutely dire, when you think that over 50% are going to be leaving in the next 5 years.
With the doctors?
Yeah.
No, it's a ticking time bomb, isn't it?
So who's going to pick up that? It's just nobody.
And then is that something that these parties that we were talking about earlier can pick up on and say, well, it's Johnny Foreigner's fault? Is that the way that it could go?
Could well do, I mean, these are obvious things for them to pick up on, aren't they? We're having all this problem because we've got all these foreigners in the country. That's where the pressure's coming for the NHS and all the rest of it. So, but it's like organisation like the North Staffs Pensions Convention. Do you know them, the North Staffs Pensions Convention?
I've never heard of that before. No.
They're an amazing group. Give you that to have a look at. It's just some information on them. They're a campaigning group, and they're amazing. They fight for anything and everything, to do with elderly people in the city.
Grey Power.
Yeah, Grey Power, and they've got it as well. They're amazing.
Grey Power newsletter.
I'm speaking at one of their functions on Monday. The subject they've given me is our NHS on life support. I've got to speak on, but that's the sort of thing they campaign for all the time. But it's campaign groups like this, you know, that are just highlighting it all the time.
Yeah.
And it should be statutory stuff like this, you know. It's our national health, you know. It's something we're proud of. It's something that's just amazing, or should be. But we're just letting it go. Just letting it go. I mean, your generation, you know, another 20, 30 years, you won't have the same NHS as we've got now, the rate we're going.